watch it.
All right, back to politics, and we cross over to Mombasa, where Mombasa, I should say, County Women Representative Mishi Mboko has sensationally claimed that details of National Youth Service recruits are being used to register some of them as voters without their knowledge, calling for a thorough audit of the voter registration. However, Jubilee leaders in Mombasa dismissed claims that the party was employing tricks to ensure a win during the general election. Let's listen in.
Msichana mmoja ambaye hajawahi kuchukua kura ameenda kwa kituo kutaka kuchukua kura. Alipofika pale anaambiwa wewe umeshachukua kura katika Vision, polling station ya Vision. Mimi sijawahi, hii ni mara yangu ya kwanza. Anaambiwa wewe ushachukua polling station ya Vision. Sasa katika kumdadisi tukamwambia lakini ulifanya NYS. Akasema lakini mimi wakati tunafanya NYS tulichukuliwa fingerprints, tukachukuliwa picha zetu, tukachukuliwa na details zote.
Personal ambitions and our personal interests are secondary to the interests of Mombasa and the interests of our country.
All right, let's hear from our panelists on that particular allegation before we come to Nairobi's politics as well. Let's begin with you, Alice Wahome.
I'm sorry, but I think that is crap. You know, honestly speaking, because...
But the issue of NYS is not emerging for the first time.
I have the program in my constituency. I have 1,570 National Youth Service cohorts,
yes,
and 100 servicemen and women. The 1,500, because of payment of their dues, every week they were getting their payment through the M-Pesa. And then thereafter it was changed because it was problematic. And so therefore they introduced BVRs
yes,
for purposes of payment. So their fingerprints, yes, were taken, but that was for purposes of payment. And those details were taken, of course, by the NYS and then handed over to the National Bank, which was actually disbursing their payment. So issues of that, maybe the young men could, some of them could think, because there was no education category or whatever, you know, it was just any young man or woman who is 35 years and below actually qualified. So possibly they were thought, or somebody is trying to bring politics because their BVRs were taken, the biometrics were taken. Then possibly that was registering them as voters. It cannot be further from the truth, because the person with the voter register is the IEBC.
But the issue of using NYS service, especially during election time, why does it really come to the fore? Because this is not the last time that we had the NYS recruits being used for electioneering purposes.
You know, we use the youth ourselves during electioneering period. Every politician used the youth. These young men and women are, this last program, they were trained, they had some little paramilitary training so that they can, you know, in terms of discipline, in terms of orderliness, if they were to assist in terms of security, what is the problem with that? I don't think they are being used for any material collection or anything like that. But, and also they can be used right now, I'm sure they could be used properly for voter awareness, creation, mobilization. I don't know why we want these young men to be idle.
Well, they say that they're used to pander to the whims of the politicians. Is that so, Dr. Shem Ochuodho?
I obviously don't have the facts,
yes,
but I'm aware that NYS, they are Kenyans like any other. It just depends on how they're being used. I thought the complaint is that they're being registered themselves, in which case I would have said, well, why not? What's wrong with them being registered? Because any Kenyan should be eligible to be registered. But having said that, in as much as I would be opposed to alarmist statements, if there is credible evidence that somebody is trying to rig the elections,
yes,
then that requires investigation and appropriate action being taken. But in all this, Debarl, a point that is not coming out to me clearly, particularly from the political parties, is the technical committee. I still go back to it.
Yes.
We're not hearing of them. They're the people who should be telling us. How come somebody is saying that somebody goes to a polling center and then he or she is being told, no, our records show you've been registered in another polling center. Yet at the same time, we are telling we are being told that these biometrics are not connected. So how do people in polling center A get to know that somebody has registered in polling center B if they're not connected? But these questions, I don't expect it really from our politicians. What I expect it to come from the technical committee. What I challenge our politicians on the divide to say is, what's that technical committee doing? Are they failing? Was it worth having it there? I thought it was the most important creation of the Joint Select Committee. But we don't seem to be hearing of it. They're the ones who should be telling us, look, when you go to register, the biometric is standalone, so your data is only within that polling center. So I think we need to hear more about the technical committee.
All right.
But,
Yes.
you know, the problem we have in this country is that certain facts are placed on the table. Somebody comes out into the open and say, I have not registered myself as a voter, and I'm reflected on the BVR. Instead of investigating this thing and finding out exactly what happened, we jump out there. No, I don't think, no, it could not be farther from the truth. What facts have you established to come to the conclusion that it could not be farther from the truth? Here is a person, here is a Kenyan saying, I have not registered, and are appearing on the BVR as somebody who has registered. All we can say is, let's get to the bottom of this, let an investigation be carried out, and let's deal with this problem if it's there. You see what I mean?
What did the returning officer say?
Hang on a minute. Nobody's questioning the right of a Kenyan to register, whether you are with the NYS or with the police or with the military or with God knows what, anything else. Nobody's questioning that. The only question is, why is somebody who has not registered reflected as being registered on the BVR?
Yeah, that's just the issue, because they're saying here, Mishi has an issue saying that details of the National Youth Service recruits are being used to register some of them as voters without their knowledge.
Debarl, that is just politics.
This is politics.
I have 1,570, and they have IDs. The fact is, all of them had to have their IDs before they were recruited. So therefore, their BVRs were taken. The biometrics were taken. So thereafter, but none of them today will get an ID until they register, a voter card, unless they register. And I've been speaking with them every day. They are registering like everybody else. So if there is anyone that I would want that
for me,
in the unlikely.
In the likely event it happens without your knowledge, because you have no way of knowing.
No, but you see, we have a member of parliament here who makes very substantial contributions on the floor of the House. We have another member of parliament here who quickly comes and says that what this person is saying, this is crap. I mean, this is not, first of all, parliamentary language. That sort of defensiveness.
We are not in parliament.
It doesn't matter, we're still parliamentarians. What it means, let me speak, I was the one on the floor, please. So, first and foremost, you know, the first thing that we do, because you see, something might be happening, and you see, this has become the nature of Kenya, because things have happened before. And people have been able to get away with it. And we're talking about public participation, which is one of the cornerstones of our constitution. And everybody must publicly participate. This young lady has actually come out, and I'm sure if we asked Honorable Mishi, give us these details, which I suggest she should, so that this can actually be the first case of audit, like we did with the IDs. The first time that it was identified, I have numbers of 6 IDs who have been given other 6 members. You know, every ID with one person registered in that name and another. Now, why would anybody, first and foremost, be defensive in the first place? In fact, by being defensive like that, even when you're not suspicious, now is when you get suspicious. And then the problem is this sort of defense line, and this is why when we have, you know, debates, they become partisan very quickly, because we seem to have our own lines of arguments all the time. And these are very specified, very rhetoric, very practiced lines.
Let's get
very practiced lines.
right.
So I hadn't finished. I just wanted to say that for such a case, what we need to be able to do, because we remember even with the 791 billion, we started off like this. Oh, this money has not been taken. Finally, when it was, what did the people who said it hadn't been taken finally say? This is a case for audit. And here, I think our emphasis must be on a forensic audit of the register, of the voters register. That must be done very, very openly. If need be, we need to have professionals do it. We need to have everybody suggest software, because most of these anomalies can be removed by software. If you put in the software, please identify double duplication IDs. This will come out immediately. Please identify recruits, NYS, and recruits who have not registered as voters. That information will come out. We have to go beyond this, because later on we come and say, this is how we are fueling. We are not fueling, we are just making a debate. But again, we have to make it in a constructive and a very definite manner.
Let's hear from Alice, then we'll come to Dr. Shem.
You know, Debarl, what I would like to hear is that politicians are actually the biggest problem in voter registration and manipulation of the register. They are the same people, and my colleague here knows that they actually do double registration. They transfer voters from one station to another, from one sub-county or constituency to another. So when we now want to say that, because I am talking from facts, that I know in my own constituency, I have not, and they call me direct, Debarl, that if they have issues, even when they had issues of payment, their payments not being paid on time, they would call me directly. By now, these were young men. Some of them were actually voting. This time, they would vote the first time. They would have called me to tell me. And not a single call that has come. So if there is any single case, and I really wanted to see that.
All right.
I would want to be proved wrong.
Yeah. Dr. Shem, allow me to just get to callers who are hanging on the line. Hang on to your thoughts. We'll just hear from our callers. We have Kenya hanging on the line. Good morning, Kenya.
Good morning, Debarl. How are you?
Very well, thank you. You have a question or a contribution, please?
I have a contribution.
Please.
So I wanted to, Debarl, I believe you have an email address.
Sorry?
I believe you have an email address, maybe with a Gmail or Yahoo.
Okay.
Suppose your email address is debarlinea@gmail.com. Suppose, I don't know, debarlinea@gmail.com. And me, Kenya, I want to open an email address, and I key in debarlinea@gmail.com. It will automatically tell me that email address already exists. So you open another email address, because you might be many Debarl Inea.
Yes.
But what separates Debarl Inea A from Debarl Inea B is the ID number, right?
Yes.
So when you tell me that IEBC has one ID number, has registered, I don't know, 4 or 3 voters, that to me is a plan to rig an election. Yeah. There's no way you can explain that. Suppose those machines are supposed to be put in a way that when I key in my ID number, if I've already registered,
yes,
it should automatically reject the ID number. Na inyambie kwamba hii ID imesha register kwa a voter. So for the fact that your system, your machine nakubali kuregister ID number moja kwa majina tatu au mbili ama tatu kuendelea, is a plus for me to rig an election. Because let me be open to you, Debarl. I voted for Uhuru in 2013. Honestly, I don't want to vote him back. I want to vote for the Nasa people. So it's so painful to me when I read Mali from the Jubilee side.
All right.
Thank you. That's my question.
Thank you, Kenya. We have also Ojuang hanging on the line. Good morning, Ojuang.
Good morning.
Morning to you. You have a question or a contribution for our panelists?
I have a contribution, Peter.
Yes, please.
I stay in Mombasa, and I think it was either on Friday or Thursday.
Yes.
Some 5 young people appeared in a place the place is Mondoni, which is a place where they register. There were 5. So when they presented their ID,
yes,
they were told that they had registered. 5 of them. So what's going on there, like I had Dr. Zani said, I think it should be audited. We should not just deny everything like the MP had. Alice should just accept that such things can happen, because the case was reported, and I think it was yesterday.
Yes.
The area MP and perhaps today, and maybe the governor has been informed about the same case. So they're checking on that. So there are very, very many rampant cases of people going to register, and they find that such names have already appeared in the TVR.
Yes.
And therefore they should just be audited so that we all go to the election when we are confident that everything is fair, free, and we will carry on the history of Kenya. We are all Kenyans. We don't want anything to happen to each one of us.
Thank you.
Such things need just to be audited and the truth come out.
Thank you, Juang. Let's hear from Madenge as well, calling from Mombasa. Good morning, Madenge.
Good morning, habari ya asubuhi.
Mzuri sana.
Okay, nilikuwa nataka kwenda kwa Alice kidogo.
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah, na tunakusikia, endelea.
Nilikuwa nataka kwenda kwa kwa Alice Wahome. Nilikuwa nataka kumswali, unaona hiyo bendera umevaa katika hiyo kichwa. Hiyo bendera ni ya Wakenya wote mamangu. Sisi tu Wakenya tumechoka na kukimbia wakati wa election. Wasikia? Jaribu na wewe uwe ni mtu ambaye unaelewa na wewe ukae na amani, watoto wako wakae na amani. Kwa sababu sisi tunakaa mahali tofauti katika Kenya, hatutaki kusema eti mimi nakaa Central, vita vikitokea nitakuwa Central. Inatakikana mtu yote atakayeshinda Wakenya wote washerekee. Sasa washerekee, Kisumu washerekee, Mombasa tusherekee, nchi iwe pamoja. Lakini tukianza mambo kama ya Nkaisaidia anaanza kuforce wa machifu, eti lazima mwende mfanye hivi. Tukianza mambo kama ya Waikito anaenda kwa mkutano anasema Raila akishinda Wakikuyu watavaa suruali fupi. Hizo ni mambo za uchochezi na haitaisha katika ukabila. Tutaonekana watu wa ukabila kila siku. Tafadhali.
Thank you, Madenge. And just a tender reminder on what we're asking you: should politicians also withhold services to wananchi because of voter registration? Should politicians withhold services to wananchi because of voter registration? Of course, a case in point we had in Kakamega, where Governor Moses Akaranga is denying services to wananchi there because of voters' card. So that's the question that we're asking. We can see a lot of reactions also on social media. We have Mesha Kanjagi saying, no, it's unconstitutional and illegal. Voting is wananchi's right, not a condition to receive a public service. We have Abel saying, NYS recruits fingerprints were taken for payment purposes. When were fingerprints used to pay employees? Right. We have also Alphonse Machindari saying, okay, let me just skip that. Also, we have Midimo saying, the media kindly adopt the culture of fact-checking, follow up some of the issues, and establish the truth. Of course, we agree with you fully. So you can chime in also. Hit us on Twitter. AM Live NTV is a Twitter handle. Also, AM Live NTV is a profile name on Facebook. Let's hear from Dr. Shem.
Thanks, Debarl. I think Mr. Madenge makes a very valid point.
Yes.
That Kenya belongs to all of us. Nobody actually has the title deed of Kenya. Every Kenyan has got a right to this country, like every other. Actually, everybody's a taxpayer, and so on and so forth. Actually, including even diaspora. Often we forget that some of them own properties in Kenya. But having said that, I'm also happy, Debarl, that digital literacy is on the rise in Kenya. You know, almost every Kenyan now is a technology expert. While that's commendable, it can also be misleading. When a gentleman, I think John, was talking about his Gmail address.
Kenywa.
Mr. Kenywa, sorry. Yes. Gmail.com. I think it's a different situation that we're talking about with biometric registration. In this manner, Gmail.com is global, you networked. And this is why earlier on I was saying, I would want to know, are the biometrics networked or not? If they are networked, then Mr. Kenywa is correct. But if they are not networked, if they're standalone, which I suspect they are, and I would be keen to know, and only the technical committee can answer this, why they're not networked. If they're networked, then if you register in one place, it should automatically convey that you registered even in another place. In the same manner, there's been talk of cleaning the register and auditing. We need to accept that you can't do both at the same time. You can't do it while you're registering. It doesn't just make sense. Now that we missed, if you can protect me from my good brother here, elder brother, if you are going to do the auditing, the technical audit, and my concern is that, again, for the political sides, particularly the side that was aggrieved in 2013, I think we over-glorify lawyers. We should have allowed technical people to do their work. I would have expected the losing side, whether it was rightly or wrong, to have done a technical audit of the last systems. I've been asking people around, including election monitors, who had expected to be on the ground at this moment, so that when 5 people were told in Mombasa were not able to be registered, I would be happy to get this report from the election monitors rather than from candidates who probably have a hidden agenda. It could be a valid concern, but I think that the last speaker talks, the one chart that you were reading, that the media perhaps need to go a little deeper below the veneer, so that we don't just have what one may call pedestrian problems. Yes. If somebody says, I go to register, and I find that I'm told I can't register my name, or somebody has been registered, I would be keen to dig deeper. What did the returning officer or the presiding officer say, so that we don't allow people to be tried, to be prosecuted without being heard, so that we hear both sides and determine, is this a valid point, or are we just being emotional, sensational reporting? I think we need to go deeper, so that when a matter is, if it's a genuine concern, it needs to be addressed to its logical conclusion. I think that's what needs to happen.
Let us see from Farah. Welcome to you.
Yes. Well, I was reading somewhere the other day, if you're in doubt and you don't have your facts right, or if the facts don't please you, then shout and rant and rave and basically, you know, say everything that, and you know, and close the chapter. You know what I mean? I don't want to listen to you. That's the end of it. You people have an issue. It's a pity sometimes how brilliant, very well educated, you know, people, because of the dynamics of politics itself, would take a very simplistic thing and refuse to think. No, they're thinking very well, but refuse to see facts. Without networking of this system, how was Kalonzo able to access his name in Wajir? You get my point? How was Kalonzo able to access his Kalonzo Musyoka? We were there in Wajir, and we put in our details. I put in my details and accessed it. The thing is networked. All these BVRs, you register now here, and you want to register a day later in Kandara, it will immediately show that you are registered in Makadara, in this and this and this, and these are the details.
Yes.
You understand my point? The issue is not because these things are not reflected within that network. The issue is there's a process, there's a software in there that is able to allocate the same ID card to two different people. And when the BVR, whatever it is, fails, or when this happens, then there must have been some tampering that has been done. It should have worked exactly the same way. You cannot register. I cannot register right now with your email. It's globally what they call networked. If I want to use your email right now and register in my name, it will immediately say this is already registered and so of such and such address. Why can't it say that this is already registered? This ID card number is registered in the name of Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, Agnes, Zani, and then it denies you the possibility of registering that.
Thank you.
Now, when that doesn't happen, Kenya is very sharp. I mean, Kenya told you exactly. I mean, that's a rudimentary, very basic things that a PhD holder in IT, like Dr. Shem Ochuodho, we should not be worried about, because I haven't done any IT things except small programs here and there. And I'm able to understand that. You know, 18 years old, 12-year-old kid who's using, my son who uses his own, runs away with my iPad, not these things. So it's a problem. And you have to call it a problem. It's a problem the way Kenya called it.
Yeah. And Kenya has done it very, very well, because he's zeroed down to ID number. We know ID number is very specific. I'll give you an example, Debarl. We have ID 26802319. It's registered under Elizabeth Muturi. At the same time, it is also registered to Weldon in Kibet, Weldon, Kibet. So this is one idea. You know, this is so synchronized. And you see, the problem is, we remember the ×8 factor that happened when we were now doing the result transmission. And Kenyans already are used to all these ways of thinking, because somewhere along the line, it is very clear, somebody somewhere is trying to look at how they can actually be able to vary numbers. And that's why I want to say here that it will be very, very important for us. And I want to call upon social audits and to call upon our researchers. Let us look at the demographic realities. Let us look at demographic realities of, for example, constituencies that had registered 99% and how they're going to register another 50% or another 20%, because demographically it is impossible. If we look at birth and death mortality, we have standard trends that have been set that cannot be undone. So I think if we're able to do these audits in such a way, we'll be able to weed out any sort of irregularities which are likely to happen. We also know very clearly that there was a case of underrepresentation and overrepresentation within various regions in the registration 2012. And this is likely to happen again. And that either indicates underage registration, which is also a possibility, or the issue of when you're talking about these BVR kids, these BVR kids cater for about 180 to 200 per person. But again, if you have, for example, an area where the clerks are very slow, or we have an area where the BVR gets, get interrupted, stop, and then start working because there's meant to be a technical person, all this finally adds up to that. So we need to be very, very clear. And what I'm saying is exactly what Akinyua was saying. That if already, there must be now the authentic ID. Because these are two names. We don't know whether there are 10 other names on that same ID, which means somebody, the authentic person, will vote once, but the 9, if this is replicated across 9 people, those votes will go somewhere else, and the number for that ID will be the same number.
All right.
So very quickly, what Kinyua is saying is we need to be able to find our way that the moment we have that authentic ID that has already been registered, then we don't have anybody else who can register, and a query is raised there and then. I know it might not be very feasible to have an audit as you do the registration, but you can put inbuilt mechanisms for reasonability in the way the data is collected.
Debarl, I can understand any political party or politician who would be suspicious that there could be foul play. That's a right we give to political parties and politicians. But having said that, two things. One is I would be keen to hear from the political parties. Have they raised these issues with their representatives and representatives of Jubilee and ODM? Are together on the technical committee of the IEBC. Yes. The people who go into the nitty-gritties. I haven't heard any of our colleagues here talking about that technical committee. All these issues that are being raised, have they been raised with their representatives? And if so, what are the representatives saying? Because that's what I think needs to come out to clearly that, yes, we found a problem here. Was it a legitimate problem? Was it accidental? Was it deliberate? And I would want to challenge my brother, Dr. Farah, that unless he has evidence, don't be too authoritative. Even I, as a software engineer, I wouldn't say they're connected or disconnected until I have the evidence. Maybe that's where us as engineers we're a bit different. A layman would just take it, they must be connected. But for me, I would want to see the evidence. Are they connected or disconnected?
All right.
It could be either.
A good point for Farah.
My major point is
fact-free allegations are not allowed.
Technical committee.
It's connected because he's registered in Sekuru and is able to access his information in Wajir.
But the expert is here saying
I'm talking to you, Mr. Expert, Mr. PhD holder in software engineering. Somebody registered in Sekuru and is able to see his details in Wajir. Okay, and then you talk about are they interconnected or not interconnected? What kind of a crap is that?
Honorable Farah,
what's wrong with you?
It's possible. Look, depending on the biometric somebody has, I could be having the voter register here. I don't need to interconnect it to another to know that you are already in the voter register.
All right.
It's possible.
Okay, let's hear from Alice.
It have to be connected, my brother.
Okay, let's hear from Alice.
You know, Debarl, our biometrics were actually taken for the last voter registration.
We'll give you a job, don't worry.
That's not what I'm looking for.
All right, let's hear.
I was saying that, you see, our biometrics, the people who voted in the last general elections, actually their biometrics were taken. So that it is true. I think it is obvious that there is a center, a command center, where once you put in your ID, actually the report is brought back to you wherever you are. You don't have to be in your own polling station. But you need sometimes to be able to say that, therefore, maybe there are some also people who are thinking that we are registering afresh, so that when they go to the polling clerk, they want to register afresh, and they are told, no, look, you've already been registered. Yes. And that's why we were even last time saying you cannot register afresh. So I think, but there is somebody who actually said that, is it Kenya who said he voted for Uhuru last time? It's true, people are entitled to vote to whoever they want the next general elections. I think the patterns will change, and I'm sure Uhuru will lose 1 or 2 votes, but he will gather other and gain other votes.
I doubt it.
Yeah, he will get other votes.
On the technical
including
aspect,
the strongholds.
Allow me to encourage. The political divides need to give their technical people time and encourage them to get proper work rather than
no, sorry, before you respond to that, sorry, Debarl, the technical, there was no IEBC. commission. And the technical team that he's kept on challenging us, we are not talking about it. Sure. First and foremost, the court leadership was not willing, even the parliamentary leadership was not willing to engage after the passing of the election laws amendment. So therefore, if the technical committee is now, possibly is going now to start working now.
They're not willing to engage, is that true? Because I think...
Yes, yes.
Because...
After the amendments, you know, there was the first amendment, and then this recent amendment. I think there was a fallout.
But there has been a whole debate. Just a moment. There has been a whole debate on whether Jubilee administration was willing to consult with the opposition in regard to those amendments. And they went full steam ahead because you said this is within the law. So it's very interesting to hear from you.
What I'm saying is, after the first initial amendment, after the select committee from both National Assembly and Senate brought the amendments to the House, and we all agreed, we are moving it this way, and we finished. The recent amendment, between that period, the was not much work because there was no commission. Okay. Now, thereafter, the amendments that came recently when we went last passing, I think there is already a fallout because everybody now thinks that that amendment was supposed to bring manual registration and rigging, which obviously is it's now very clear that we have the need.
Thank you. Let Shem finish his point now.
Identification.
I think we are talking about
let him finish.
We're talking about two different issues. Yeah. I was referring to the Joint Select Committee law, if I may call it that. It talked about a very clear, a very specific technical committee in recognition of possible rigging efforts, whether perceived or real. I think that was the wisdom that formed the joint committee coming up with the technical committee.
Yes.
I think really that's where the focus should be. Can we get those committees to do their work and insist on them giving us reports? Of course, committee members may also get compromised by either party. Is that what's happening? I must say that this sector is very small. I have been privileged to present, and I see other people who both sides of the house present as experts. I think this is also part of a problem that we have. Everybody is now an expert in IT, which also is an indictment on Parliament. Parliament needs to bring order to that sector, given that the digital economy is so important to us, so that when we say that this is an ICT expert, it cannot be in dispute at all. But I have seen people come from both sides of the device, or even present in media houses purporting to be expert, and I keep wondering, oh my God. And we take their word for what it is. But much worse is when even every one of us now becomes an expert. Then, of course, it becomes very difficult. So my challenge and my advice, please let these experts in the technical committee get down to work. Can they be the ones to come out to Kenyans? Because the good thing is that with technology, it's so precise. You know, 1 inch is 1 inch. So whether one is in CORD or Jubilee, they will agree this is 1 inch. I think we should be, when it comes to technical issues, let's hear more from them rather than hearing from the politicians. All
right, let's get your closing remarks from Dr. Zani, Farah, and we also want to read some of the tweets. We have John Gidanga saying, it's depressing to see that IEBC is recycling the same old errors, yet they had 5 years to style up. Also, we have, let me try and see, there's one I wanted to read out here, which I would think, how about Samson Okanda saying, how about we withhold paying our taxes so they also sober up and provide service? This is to the politicians who are withholding services to Wananchi because they want them to have a voter's card.
Thank you, Debarl. You said last comments. I just want to say that this is about choice. And when you've been an incumbent, you've been given, in our case, the Constitution gave us 4 years. What people now should be feeling is that, you know, nobody really should be going to the ground now to start saying, you know, I did this and the other. Whatever you've done, if you did it well, the impact is actually there. And it is actually the time, and I go back to that caricature, that now it's the people to make a choice. And that's why we're calling it choice. It's called Choice 2017. There's not one player, there are not two players, there are very many players for the various positions. And everybody has a stake on coming on board. Now, democracy is about voting. But democracy is about making that vote count. I think we're focusing on voting, but not making that vote count, and therefore that would not be democracy. And that's why the emphasis is on IEBC. And just touching on the fact that maybe political parties haven't engaged so much with the technical committee, I think at the level of ODM, where I sit as Secretary General, we're already beginning to engage to ensure that we're able to get, for example, returns. And I think IEBC has mentioned that this is going to happen every Monday. We're going to be looking at those registrations. We're going to be scrutinizing those registrations. We're going to be looking at the audit. We're going to look at the social audit. We're going to look at all the variables and try to explain things. I wish also as a political class, when issues are raised, let's learn to identify them as issues and address them as issues. Because I think we also don't want to give the wrong messages to Kenyans that this is about one side or the other side and then finally a fight. We have only one Kenyan. And we have already seen the examples from other African countries who have done it very, very successfully. We have seen the decorum in America that, you know, even though the ideologies are different, they've been able to step out and one has been able to come. So I think now is the time to stop talking about what you have done and how you have done it. The time is up. It's time for Kenyans now to make a decision. And they need to be able to make that decision and be facilitated for that decision to
Farah,
count.
let's hear from you. Farah.
Debarl, the new electoral body is going to come. I think they've just started their work today, is it? They've been sworn in. Sure. Yeah, they're probably going to start. They're going to start. They are sworn in, so let's assume they start their work seriously from Monday, which is today. I see a very Herculean task for them to be able to get this system right. And they have very limited time to do that. Unfortunately, we do not have a vacuum. We do not have a gap. That other commission has been in place until this commission came into place. But I don't think they've done anything good for this country. They've just been trying to mess because of the bitterness and whatever presumptions we have about them that they've done this rigging before and they wanted to do the rigging again. So maybe they tried to perfect it in the manner they did it, either by commission or omission. The point I'm trying to get at is we can talk politics day in, day out. What we need in this country is a system that works, and system, as Agnes has put it, that's going to make every vote count. And if we don't get this system right, then we have a problem in this country, let me tell you. And we're not a very small state like Gambia who can be influenced from the neighboring countries and told you've got this to get this right, and with ECOWAS or AMISOM or anybody. No, we are a big country that cannot be, it's not going to be that easy to make that influence. Maybe the only thing that can be employed is sanctions and the other things that have long-term effect and eventually only affect the common man in a very substantive manner. So it's important that we all come together as Kenyans. We accept the results. Whoever wins, wins. Whoever loses, loses. But there's not going to be any more hanky-panky business.
Thank you. Dr. Shem Ochuodho.
Debarl, I think it's statesmanly for the president to have said if he loses the elections in August, he will respect the decision of Kenyans. That's commendable. I want to challenge all other competitors to say the same. Come out to say that if the elections will be won fairly and they lose, they will gracefully accept. Let it not come from Farah. Let it come from the candidates, the presidential candidates themselves. Having said that, Debarl, and I think it's an important point, that we start preparing our supporters and those who are around us, that we could win, but we could also lose. That if we lose, let's lose gracefully. I think it's important that it has come out from the president. In terms of, I do know that the diaspora registration is meant to start on 1st February. It's barely a week away. I am equally concerned that not sufficient arrangements have been done. Nonetheless, Kenya Diaspora Alliance, which I head, is co-chair of what IEBC calls the diaspora thematic area, stroke pillar. And we are meeting, and I'm glad that Madam Secretary General has confirmed that ODM will be participating. Jubilee Secretary General has confirmed they'll be participating. We're expecting the meeting to be co-chaired by IEBC. We're expecting a high-level representative from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the major stakeholders, so that we can agree and have consensus. If we are going to register from 1st of February, which countries are we going to do it so that there's consensus on
Thank you.
Yeah, may I take this opportunity, Debarl, to congratulate the Mayor Chebukati and his entire team, the new commissioners, and ask him to actually ban the midnight oil, because we are running behind schedule, and we would want him to complete the exercise of voter registration as much as possible. I'm actually asking his clerks, because I have interacted now with them in different areas in Nyandarua and in Murang'a. They must ban the midnight oil and spare no effort to register every Kenyan to vote. And the Kenyans must come out themselves and not ask the people registering them what they will get in return. What they will get in return is actually the choice, the power to vote the leaders that will move them forward from now on, including, of course, our strongholds come out, because there is apathy that was there, and we know now, and we don't want to preach apathy in every corner of the country, because bad speeches, bad, politics that is not encouraging registration of voters. Giving hope is important. Therefore, our strongholds, you have a government to defend.
Right, thank you.